Hi, I'm Chris Bettine. I'm the founder and CEO of Premier Vacation Rentals Group. And with me today is Marilyn Triasi. She is the Director of Sales and Marketing and formerly the Director of Revenue Management for a prestigious resort on the west coast of Florida that she won't let me name. That's one of the largest hotel companies, or part of one of the largest hotel companies in the world. And Marilyn worked with our company to develop our sophisticated revenue and yield management program. So I wanted to introduce her to everyone and also ask her a few questions about the mystery that is revenue management and why it's so important. And so, hi, Marilyn, how are you today?
Hey, Chris, I'm great. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Why on earth would anyone want to talk about yield management? And is it the most boring subject in the world besides what kind of flour people use for their gluten-free cookies?
Well, I happen to love revenue management. So, no, it's not the most boring subject in the world. It's actually really, really fascinating. It was actually called yield management in the very beginning. It evolved into revenue management. And I've been lucky enough to grow with the discipline in the hospitality business for the last, oh gosh, probably 20, 25 years. So, it's fascinating. The technical definition when you read about revenue management in hotels is selling the right room at the right price at the right time to the right customer. So thinking about everything you need to understand. There's just so much that goes into it, and we're really well-rounded individuals that have to know a lot.
What does it say about a person that they would become a revenue management manager? Does it mean they are not to be invited to cocktail parties?
On the contrary, I think we're very smart and very well-rounded individuals. I will say that there's a stereotype that's out there that we're more like accountants because we're number people, and maybe those are the people you don't want to invite to the cocktail party. We can talk intelligently about supply and demand and economics and what's happening in markets. We understand consumer behaviors. We understand marketing. So we can handle ourselves at cocktail parties and fall into a few different conversations.
Well, you're doing great here. One of the things you taught me early on in my career was it doesn't matter if you're changing your rate if you're not supporting it, right?
Absolutely. If you put a price point out there and there's nothing behind it, are people really going to see it? What's going to attract them?
A lot of times people use that old adage, they set it and forget it. I remember hearing that. Well, is that the same with that same philosophy with rates?
So, absolutely. And I think if 2020 taught us anything, it is you don't set anything and forget anything. It's adjusting and changing strategy, is what we like to call it in revenue management, has been critical. And adjusting and changing up strategy to match what's happening is key and it's critical. So, set it and forget it. You put a strategy out there, you put a rate on the table and you walk away from it and you go on and you never come back, you might have missed the boat completely. You may be way underpriced and your competitors change something up. All sorts of things happen. So it's a case of constantly monitoring and making sure that the strategy that you have alive and out there is what's working for the time frame you're in right now and the conditions you're under right now.
I think that's the big mistake that we often make in this business is not to realize how diverse the rate environment really is and how much it needs to change to make sure we don't make an error going forward.
Absolutely, 100%. So you're talking about, one of the big things with that is price sensitivity and a customer's price sensitivity. So if you're not watching constantly what's going on, you have a time frame that maybe you're trying a higher rate and it starts booking like gangbusters. Guess what? There's no price sensitivity. Raise that rate. You're leaving money on the table if you don't. Flip side, you let it sit out there for too long and you get no bookings against it, you've blown it as well, right?
Right.
Because now you're going to move out of your booking window and it's not going to come back around and you just missed it. You blew it.
Yeah, I can't imagine how someone who isn't a professional like yourself navigates that terrain, let alone somebody who's trying to manage their individual home and really run a lodging business without the kind of expertise you bring to the table.
You learn every single day and you hone your skills every single day. So, no, I can't imagine having no background or no knowledge or no understanding. You're just like, hey, $200 a night sounds great. Let's go for it.
We're in the age of the internet now, Marilyn, and I think everybody's under the impression that there's some app that does that or some website or something.
In the vacation home rental side, I don't know how you would set up a system to do it all for you. Every unit's unique, which is kind of what's fascinating about it to me. You don't have a one size fits all. Your side of the business is so unique where every single unit has its nuances. And that truly takes human interaction. Understanding consumer behavior takes human interaction as well.
Well, the pandemic's a perfect example of that. I heard somebody say, it probably was you, that the computer didn't see the pandemic coming,
Yeah.
and certainly couldn't have made those adjustments. And think how critical all of those micro adjustments were over the course of the last essentially 12 months and going forward right here. I mean, we made it to 2021, but we still aren't out of the weeds as they speak. And really, revenue management has saved the day in this industry, treating each of these properties like their own little inn, and then
Absolutely.
looking out there in space. It's much more complex than it was when I was in the hotel business.
You can do whatever you want today, whereas before it was, in the month of March, charge X, in the month of June, charge Y. Now it's June 1st is this, June 2nd is this, June 3rd is another rate. So it's very, very, very complex today. And the other thing I just want to, talking about human interaction, I caution people I work with also. Um, a computer and a system works off of data, right? The data that it's
Right.
been given, the data that it has, that it's computing, and then it's making decisions off of that data. Well, I caution to do not make a single decision off of 2020 data, right? 2021,
Right.
2022. So right away, you're throwing all that data out the window. So if you were on a computer system and that's all it had with no human interaction, you have bad data. We're not going to act like that again.
We use the computers and all of the tools at our disposal to make recommendations. And there's a lot of really whiz bang things out there to inform a revenue manager like yourself on moves that you can make. But I agree with you. I think it's a nexus between the human element and really looking out there in space. And of course, the computer doesn't do the marketing function that we were talking about earlier, which is so critical to the process. All of that comes to play. And if you don't have somebody who's doing professional revenue management in your lodging business, you're going to miss out. That's my next question for you, man. How much of a difference does this really make? Are we talking I get a new warm pair of socks for Christmas next year, or can I go start picking out a new exotic automobile, or is it helicopter on sailboat money? What are we talking about here, Marilyn?
So I think of it, kind of in terms of almost a snowball effect, and it's just building as it rolls, right? So it can start out very small. It can start out at, hey, I'm gonna tweak this rate up $20 a night, or wow, what the heck's going on over here? Let's tweak this one up $100 a night and see what happens. If you've never tried it, you don't know. So we call that price testing. In cases where something hasn't been revenue managed before, I think you can see some immediate growth and then you'll see slower growth. But what actually ends up happening is it's a more efficient way to rent your unit. It just builds exponentially. Once you start raising the rates and then you see opportunity to raise again, it builds exponentially.
We found that implementing your strategies and having your help with this process has increased the revenues that we get on an average basis by about 15%. It really does have a payoff, and it pays off every one of our individual owners, and of course it's good for the company as well. And really, we're talking about perishable inventory, right? We
Mhm.
hear that concept applied to this. What does that mean to you in terms of revenue management? Are we talking like stale donut perishable, which I still think are pretty tasty, or are we talking about like milk perishable, which I think we can all agree is probably not a good thing?
So for a revenue manager, it's milk perishable. It's not tasty in the least bit. We have 365 nights, right, that we can sell a unit. And when you miss one, now you only have 364 left, right? So it's gone, it's done. You can't get that night back and resell it. It's not a return that you can put back on the shelf. So that's what we mean by perishable. I caution though, because that concept of being perishable sometimes freezes people from increasing their rate or doing some of that price testing, because it's a fear that you'll miss out on the booking. So there's a lot of discipline that comes in with trusting your data and what you're seeing, holding firm, being patient, and sometimes your gut comes into play too.
We appreciate the passion you've brought to this project with us. It's
I
made
love it.
it's made a huge difference, and I don't know if you've convinced me that you guys are as exciting as you think you are,
We
but we
are.
are excited to have you be part of what we do, and it's a real honor to get to work with you. And I appreciate the time and energy that you put into us.
Honestly, it's a privilege. I'm loving it. It's going back to my first love, my passion of revenue management. And it's so unique that it's exciting. And I'm loving every minute of it. It's been a lot of fun for me.
I'll see you soon, I hope. Take good
Perfect.
care of
Sounds
yourself.
wonderful.
All right.
Great.
Bye bye.
Bye.